Hey guys, it's Justin Goodbread with Financially Simple. So here's a question for you that I had yesterday. Hey Justin, so I'm in a high cash flow business and first year startup and we're making a killing. When should I start a retirement plan? Then he followed up with it, and what type of retirement plan should I use? So it's easy to start spouting out information, but so I had to ask some questions in return. I said, okay, what type of company do you have? Is it an LLC? Is it an S Corp? Is it a C Corp? What type of entity are you? That's what I asked you. He said, well, I'm an LLC. I said, okay, how's it taxed? Well, I'm taxing as an S. So, okay, I understand where you're at. Any employees? He goes, yeah, I have 30 employees currently. I said, okay, what are we going to deal with in the next 2 years? How many employees do you project yourself having? He said, man, I think we're going to be pushing 100 employees the next 2 years. When did you start the company? Because I started the company 6 months ago. I'm like, all right. Each one of these questions is very tactical for me because I need to know timelines to give him the advice. So the last question I had is, okay, so what do you think your net profit is going to be? In other words, how much are you going to be taxed on? He said, Justin, I think year one we're going to turn a profit of about 60 grand. I said, okay. Are you paying yourself a paycheck, like W-2 paycheck, or are you taking a draw, like a dividend? He said, my CPA set me up with a W-2 paycheck. So, okay, do you need the money? He goes, no, I don't. My wife, she makes a pretty good income, which is why we started this venture. We knew that if I busted, it'd be okay. You kind of see where this guy's at. All right, here's some ideas. So if you're going to make about 60K, and you've already got 30 employees, and you're in a high cash flow business, and we know that in 2 years, that's a magic number, 2 years, you're going to have close to 100 employees. Here's some options that you may want to consider. I said, all right, what's that? I said, well, you may want to start off this year. If you don't need, and that's the optimal word is need, many people as Americans, we spend everything we make. We don't invest back into our business. We don't invest in our personal lives. And he said, Justin, that's not me. I don't need the 60K. I said, well, let me do this. You can get a little bit of tax savings by deferring it using a SEP IRA, S-E-P IRA. He said, okay. He said, now, because you're a startup business, we have some time before we must include the employees. But I said, roughly, you can put about 20% of your net profits into the SEP IRA, and you can defer it. So now we're putting, a pretty good bit of money away. And he said, I like that idea, let's do that. How much does it cost? I said, well, it's pretty much inexpensive. You're going to have a little bit of account fees. You may have a $10 account fee. So it's just not very expensive. Okay, but I really want to get a 401k for my employees. I'm like, yeah, I understand that. But you're a startup business, so here's some numbers on a 401k. First of all, depending on the type of 401k you have in place and the provisions, and there's all different flavors. So you start off with a 401k, basic 401k, and then you can add a bunch of flavors to it. Profit sharing, you can have a safe harbor. There's all sorts of different ways you can compare all these different 401ks or build these 401ks. As a basic setup, most 401ks, the reason why employees want them is to get the employer match. He said, yeah, I understand that. I said, well, we'd have to calculate that, but you're probably 2, 4, maybe 5% of your payroll you would be required to place into your employees' accounts. He just kind of stopped and he goes, oh. I'm like, yeah, so do you really want to jump on that right away as a baby company? He said, man, I really want to help my employees. And that's the most part for us business owners. We know our employees are there and they support us day in, day out, and we want to do the best we can to help them. And he's like, man, I want to help my employees, but yeah, I understand. So why don't we do this? Why don't we do a SEP IRA for a couple of years? In about 3 years, we're going to be required to now include your employees in the contributions. I said, all right. There's some technical terms. I'm being very, very general here, folks, okay? I'm trying to break something extremely complicated down very simple. So I know if another financial planner watches this, he'll be like, dude, you're wrong. I'm trying to make it very simple for folks. And you'll talk with your CPA and your CFP to make sure all the parameters work. Then after 3 years, you're going to be required to, for the most part, to include your employees. Now there's some provisions where you may not or can or may not be able to do that. But so now in 3 years, we look at the cost, and now you may at that point want to use a 401k. And he's like, we were looking at the pro forma, and he said, Justin, I think that's the route I want to go, because I really don't need the 60K instead of doing the SEP IRA, why don't I just refund it in the business? And I'm like, dude, you're speaking my language now. And then 3 years, 2 years, 3 years from now let's roll in a 401k for your employees. He said, all right, I like that. I like that a lot. Like, me too, man. Me too. And he's probably going, dude, you're like a financial guy telling me not to use a retirement account? Like, yeah, because a business many times will grow faster than a retirement account can. It can provide you a greater dividend, if you will. We got into the 401k question. The ultimate question was, how much was it cost at that point? It's like, currently, for the most part, you can get a 401k in place for very inexpensive. But look, just because we think a 401k, a SEP IRA, a simple whatever makes sense, and we can do it, it doesn't necessarily mean we should. After we walk through this whole diatribe and I got everything in place, the client and I looked at the numbers and we're like, man, you're going to get a better ROI, a return on your investment, by reinvesting in your business for this next 2 years than you will be putting this little bit of money, and there was a little bit of money for this individual, aside in a retirement account. I'm not knocking a retirement account, guys. You got to have them. I have them. My business friends have them. Most of my clients have retirement accounts because it helps pull money off the table. But in this case, the numbers didn't make sense. Hope that gives you an insight into the way a planner's thinking and the way we work with business owners in that avenue. Hey guys, look, it is a beautiful day in East Tennessee. Y'all make it a great day.